Welcome to Ink Beneath the Gaslight by the Glitch Bureau. This book covers a retired British Army colonel investigates a series of mysterious deaths among members of a secret London investment society whose rules reward surviving members with the wealth of the deceased. Applying battlefield logic and strategic reasoning, the colonel analyzes the suspects as if they were opposing forces in a military campaign. As the deaths continue, he realizes the killer is not simply committing murders, but executing a calculated strategy designed to eliminate rivals one by one. Chapter 1: The Quiet Retirement. The fog hung low over London, a thick, silvery blanket that muffled the city's usual clamor. Colonel Arthur Whitcombe, recently retired from a distinguished career in the British Army, found himself walking these familiar streets with a newfound sense of leisure. His cane tapped rhythmically against the cobblestones as he moved, his pace deliberate and unhurried. The transition from the regimented life of a soldier to the quieter rhythms of civilian life had been smoother than anticipated, yet a certain restlessness lingered beneath his composed exterior. Whitcomb's days had settled into a comforting routine. Mornings were spent at his modest study, where the ticking of an old clock provided a steady backdrop to his thoughts. He would polish his campaign medals, each stroke of the cloth a meditative act that allowed his mind to wander. Afternoons were reserved for walks through the city, where he observed the world with the keen eye of a strategist, noting the ebb and flow of urban life as if it were a military campaign unfolding before him. It was during one such afternoon that Colonel Whitcomb's attention was caught by a newspaper headline in a vendor's stall: "Mysterious Death in London Investment Society." The words seemed to leap from the page, igniting a spark of curiosity within him. The article detailed the untimely demise of a prominent member of a secretive investment society. The nature of the death was shrouded in mystery, and the society's peculiar rule of inheritance, where the wealth of a deceased member was distributed among the survivors, added an intriguing layer to the narrative. Whitcomb's military mind began to churn. The situation bore an uncanny resemblance to a strategic operation, where each death could be seen as a shift in the battlefield's balance. The inheritance rule provided a clear motive, transforming each member into both a potential suspect and a target. With a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since his days on the battlefield, Whitcombe decided to delve deeper into this enigmatic society. London in the 1930s was a city of contrasts. The grandeur of its architecture stood in stark contrast to the gritty reality of its fog-laden streets. Whitcomb's investigation began here, amidst the gas lamp glow and the ever-present scent of coal smoke. He visited gentlemen's clubs, where the air was thick with cigar smoke and whispered conversations. These were places where the city's elite gathered and where secrets were as common as the polished wood of the bar counters. As Whitcombe navigated this world, he became acutely aware of the social hierarchies and reputations that governed it. Each interaction was a careful dance, a negotiation of status and influence. The society's members were no different, each one a piece on a chessboard, their motives and movements to be analyzed with the precision of a military campaign. One evening, as he sat in the quiet of his study, Whitcombe began to map out the society's members. He constructed diagrams and timelines, treating each individual as an opposing unit. Motives were strategic objectives, and alibis were scrutinized like supply routes. The colonel's meticulous nature, once honed on the battlefield, now found new purpose in this civilian mystery. Central to his investigation was the peculiar inheritance rule. This financial incentive was the linchpin of the society's dynamics, transforming each death into a potential gain for the survivors. Whitcombe knew that understanding this rule was key to unraveling the mystery. He began to see the society's structure not just as a financial arrangement, but as a battlefield where alliances were formed and broken, and where each move could shift the balance of power. As the days turned into weeks, Whitcomb's study became a war room of sorts. Maps of relationships and strategic diagrams covered the walls, each one a testament to his methodical approach. The colonel was in his element, and his investigation began to yield results. He identified 5 primary suspects, each with a clear motive, plausible means, and real opportunity to commit the crime. One evening, while poring over his notes, Whitcombe discovered the first major clue: It was a seemingly innocuous detail, a discrepancy in the timeline of events that suggested an alibi was not as solid as it appeared. This clue, combined with the strategic mapping of relationships, began to form a coherent picture in his mind. Yet, as with any campaign, there were obstacles. Red herrings emerged, misleading trails that threatened to derail his investigation. These false leads were as plausible as they were deceptive, and Whitcombe had to rely on his strategic reasoning to separate fact from fiction. His military training had taught him the importance of patience and persistence, and he applied these principles to his investigation with unwavering focus. The foggy streets of London provided the perfect backdrop for this unfolding mystery. Each step Whitcombe took through the city was accompanied by the soft rustle of his coat and the distant echo of the city's heartbeat. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, and the colonel's mind was a whirlwind of possibilities and deductions. As he delved deeper into the society's inner workings, Whitcombe began to sense a pattern. The deaths were not random, but part of a deliberate strategy. Someone within the society was executing a calculated campaign of elimination, each move designed to eliminate rivals and consolidate power. The realization was both chilling and exhilarating, and Whitcombe knew that he was closing in on the truth. With each passing day, the colonel's investigation drew him further into the society's web. He attended gatherings where the air was thick with tension, and where every glance and gesture was laden with meaning. Conversations revealed motives and social dynamics, providing Whitcombe with the insights he needed to piece together the puzzle. In the quiet of his study, Whitcombe reflected on the parallels between his military past and his current investigation. The strategic reasoning and tactical planning that had served him well on the battlefield were now his greatest assets in unraveling the mystery. He realized that the skills he had honed over decades of service were not only applicable, but essential to his success in this new arena. As the chapter drew to a close, Whitcombe found himself on the brink of a revelation. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and the colonel knew that he was on the verge of uncovering the killer's identity. The quiet retirement he had envisioned was now a distant memory, replaced by the thrill of the chase and the satisfaction of strategic deduction. In the foggy streets of London, amidst the ticking clocks and the rustle of paper, Colonel Arthur Whitcombe had found a new battlefield, and on this battlefield he was determined to emerge victorious.